Captain Relvaro stared into the endless black outside the forward window of the research ship. Lumengate. Space looked peaceful, but the bridge felt tense. Sensor Officer Juno reported a drifting object ahead. At first it looked like scrap, but the scan corrected and showed the truth. A damaged lifepod was floating alone. It had burn marks and deep scratches like claws had torn the metal. A weak life signal was still inside. Union rescue law left no choice. Rel ordered the pod captured. The ship slowed, and a mechanical arm pulled the pod into the docking bay. Metal scraped the hull with an ugly sound that made the crew uneasy. In the docking bay, medical officer Tessa Vane arrived with a sealed medical team. They forced the dented hatch open, and a strange smell poured out. Hot metal, bitter chemicals, and something that felt wrong. Inside lay an unknown alien soldier, gray-skinned, armored plates on the shoulders, long fingers, and a combat suit with its emblem scratched off. He was alive but barely. Dark, thick blood covered his suit. Tessa saw collapsed, breathing, fractured ribs, and a deep abdominal wound. She ordered an emergency transfer. They lifted him onto a stretcher and rushed him through the corridor as doors opened automatically. On the bridge, Rel watched the emergency icons turn red. The ship I asked permission for a deep biological scan. Rel approved. In the medical bay, Tessa began scanning immediately. The results showed a strong body, heavy muscle, dense nerves, and organ placement slightly different from known species. This being was built for hard survival. Then the scanner alarm changed. Not a normal tone, but a harsh warning. The bay lights turned red. The AI voice became sharp. Warning: unknown biological agent detected. Warning: extreme threat marker detected. Warning: human biology signature nearby. Threat level critical. Everyone froze. Human. The word felt impossible. Humans were old stories in Union space. Some called them extinct. Some said sealed away. Some said monsters from a death world, but the warning was real. Tessa forced herself to move and asked the AI to confirm the source. The AI answered, human, biology signature detected in range, location approximate docking bay. Tessa felt cold fear. That meant something human had come in with the pod. She opened a comm line. Captain, the ship is detecting human biology in the docking bay. We may have a stowaway. Rel reacted fast. Locked down the docking bay. Security teams moving. The ship sealed doors and dimmed the bay to warning red. Security Chief Merrick entered with 2 armored officers carrying pulse rifles. They circled the pod carefully and ran a thermal scan. One officer frowned. Chief, I am reading warmth. Not inside. Under the pod. Merrick raised his rifle and spoke to the bridge. Permission to engage. Rel paused, then replied, do not shoot unless it attacks. Capture, if possible. The platform holding the pod rose slowly with a mechanical hum. Under it, a figure clung to the metal like a shadow. It looked up, a human in a dark armored suit wearing a breathing mask. Clear lenses showed calm, focused eyes. The human raised one empty hand. Do not shoot. I am here to retrieve what belongs to us. Merrick kept his rifle aimed. Identify yourself, the human answered. Name is not important. Your ship is not the target. The pod is. Give a pack. Merrick ordered him to surrender. The human sighed. I do not want to hurt anyone, but I will if you force me. The words were quiet but heavy. One officer shifted nervously. The human turned and looked at him. You are afraid. Good. Stay afraid. It will keep you alive. Then the human moved like lightning. Merrick fired, but the shot hit the wall. The human grabbed a rifle barrel, twisted hard, and tore it away, then hit the officer once, sending him into the wall. Merrick tried to aim again, but the human was already in front of him. A punch slammed into his stomach and he dropped to one knee. The human tossed the weapon away and stood over Merrick. Do not? The second officer rushed with a stun baton. The human kicked it away and shoved the officer down. No extra hits, no anger, only control. Then the human walked to the pod and placed the small device on the hatch. The hatch hissed open. Then it looked up toward the ceiling camera. Captain Relvaro, I know you are watching. I am not here for your crew. I am here for our ship and our men. If you keep him, you will die. If you let me take him, you will live. Choose fast. You assaulted my crew. You will surrender. The human laughed once. Captain, I stopped them from killing themselves. You will be removed from this ship, the human replied. Then you will die, because what is coming will. I am the friendly option. Before Rel could answer, Juno shouted, Captain, multiple contacts incoming! Fast! Rel turned to the scanner. Small pods were racing toward their ship. Many. Boarding. Pod C. AI screamed warnings. Impact in minutes. In the docking bay, the human quickly lifted the injured alien with surprising care and placed him into a medical capsule from the pod. Captain, your ship is in danger. If you refuse, they will board and treat your crew as obstacles. Isolated. Doors unlocked. At the airlock, it clipped a tether and launched into open space with perfect control. Seconds later, the first pod slammed into the hull. Alums screamed. Hull breach attempts detected. Engineering reported cutting methods, not plasma, but something that ate metal like acid. Breach confirmed. Multiple human biosignatures detected. Rel felt his blood turn cold. Humans were boarding. Not one. Many. Internal cameras caught movement in a corridor. A figure climbed through wearing smooth white armor like bone. Another followed. They moved slowly, confidently, like predators entering a cage. One lifted its head and sniffed the air. Then a distorted voice whispered, We smell blood. Not ours. The human who left was transmitting. Rel ordered it played. Captain, I have their attention, but your ship still has parasites. Do not fight them head on. Seal them. Starve them of oxygen. Burn the corridors. Vent sections, if needed. The message ended. Rel stared at the shaking ship and the dead camera feeds. The question echoed in his mind like a scream. What the hell was wrong with human biology? Answer was forming around him. Nothing was wrong.
Threat level is critical. We need to stabilize now.
Vitals are spiking. I'm administering the counter-agent.
Do it, everyone. Prepare for extraction.
After the chaos in the docking bay, Captain Relvaro ordered a full ship lockdown on the research vessel Lumengate. Every corridor door sealed, every section isolated, every access panel restricted. The ship AI kept repeating the same warning like a nightmare chant. Human biology detected. Threat level critical. Rel hated that word human. It sounded like a ghost from old war history, but now it was real and moving inside his ship. The tactical screen on the bridge showed red breach zones across the outer hull like an infection spreading. Engineering confirmed the cutting method was not normal. It was not plasma, not mining tools, not union tech. It behaved like living acid, eating through metal as if the hull was soft. Rel ordered defense. Foam deployment, but it slowed nothing. Then he ordered emergency protocol, seal and trap them. Do not meet them in open corridors. He knew bravery would only create bodies in the medical bay. Tessavain worked with shaking hands and steady focus. The alien soldier was alive, but barely. His breathing was thin and broken. His ribs were fractured, his abdomen torn as if something had ripped it open in rage. His combat suit emblem was scratched off, and that bothered Tessa deeply because that meant secrets. It meant someone wanted his identity erased or wanted their own connection to him erased. She pushed stabilizer fluids and set internal pressure support. She ran deep scans again, trying to understand the earlier alarm. Human biology nearby. The scan showed the alien body was strong, dense muscle, high endurance organs, built for a harsh environment, and still he had nearly died, which meant the attacker was far worse. The ship AI requested permission to open a restricted archive file. Rel hesitated for 1 second, then allowed it. The screen on the bridge filled with old classified material. Human species threat report. The first page already felt like a horror story. Humans originated from a death world. High gravity, aggressive. Predators high, disease pressure high, radiation cycles, extreme survival conditions. The file described human bodies as built not for comfort but for endurance. It listed human blood composition and highlighted one word, iron. That meant their blood carried oxygen using metal and could be toxic to many species. It listed immune function, and the description was even worse. Human immune cells act like autonomous hunters. They attack foreign bodies with extreme violence. Humans can survive infections that would wipe out entire stations. It listed pain tolerance and adrenal surge. Humans can ignore injuries and continue fighting. It listed regeneration. Human skin heals fast. Scars become reinforced tissue. Humans continue moving, even with broken bones. Rel stared at the screen and finally understood why old fleets feared humans even when unarmed. A creature like that did not need advanced weapons to become dangerous. Then the file displayed another section that made his stomach drop. Weaponized human variants. It warned that some humans did not accept their natural limits. They modified themselves illegally. They replaced bone with engineered plates. They injected chemical stimulants into the blood. They removed fear responses. They removed pain responses. They reduced sleep needs. They increased lung performance. They increased vacuum survival. The archive labeled these groups unstable, illegal, and extremely violent. Then another alarm shook the ship hard enough that the bridge crew grabbed rails for balance breach confirmed in Section C for the AI. Screamed multiple intruders detected real opened corridor cameras. The feed showed smoke flickering lights and a torn wall, like something had chewed through it. Then a figure stepped into view wearing smooth white armor that looked like bone. It moved slowly like it had all the time in the universe. Another followed. Then another. They did not rush. They did not search. They moved like predators who already knew the map of security. Squad opened fire at long range. Pulse shots hit the lead figure. Energy burned across its chest plates. The figure did not fall. It did not flinch. It kept walking. One soldier screamed and fired again. The lead figure raised an arm and fired a compact beam that cut through a door and through the soldier behind it like the door was cloth. The squad broke and ran. Rel felt anger, fear, and helplessness collide. These were not pirates. These were not normal humans. These were something engineered to ignore death. The AI overlaid readings on the camera feed: abnormal tissue density, pain suppression, active heart rate, stable under damage. Rel remembered the message from the first human: do not fight them head on. He ordered that section sealed. Then vented engineering, hesitated because adjacent nodes had crew inside. Rel snapped: move the crew, then vent it. Now we cannot let them spread. Doors slammed shut and alarms changed tone as the vents opened to vacuum. The corridor cameras turned pale with frost as air rushed out and pressure dropped. The white armored figures still moved. They grabbed walls and anchored themselves like insects. They survived even in vacuum far longer than any normal life. Sherelle realized a terrible truth. Those things did not follow rules of biology anymore. They were biology rewritten. Then the medical bay called. Tessa sounded tense. Captain, the patient is waking. He is trying to speak. Rel patched into the medical feed. The alien soldier opened his eyes wide and scanned the room like prey, expecting another attack. Tessa leaned close and spoke slowly. You are safe. Tell me your name. The alien swallowed with pain and whispered, Carvaden. Tessa asked, who attacked you? Car answered, human, but not normal white armor. Tessa felt cold spread in her chest. Rel asked, why would humans attack you? Carr struggled to speak but forced the words out. I was their prisoner. They took my ship. They killed my crew. They wanted information, a location of a human colony. I refused. Tessa asked, why would they want a human colony? Carr stared with hate and fear mixed together. Because they want it erased. They want baseline humans dead. They want only their kind. They think pain is weakness. They think mercy is weakness. They think love is weakness. Tessa looked at the camera and spoke to Rel. Captain, these are not just borders. They are hunting their own species. Rel turned back to the bridge archive file and saw it match perfectly. Purifiers, extremist, human offshoot, hostile to baseline humans, and hostile to aliens who protect them. It was written in old cold text, but now it was alive inside his ship. Then Juno shouted, incoming external transmission. Rel ordered it, played the calm human voice. Return, Captain. They boarded. Anyway, Rel demanded, what are they? The human replied, purifiers. They believe they are saving the galaxy by destroying humans who still feel. They will kill you because you helped me. Without knowing, Rel asked, why risk everything for this ship? The human answered, because the alien you rescued is a witness. He carries proof of their crimes. Proof of illegal attacks, proof of forbidden human experiments, proof that they broke Union law. They do not allow witnesses. Rel looked at the medical bay feed. Protect Carr at all costs. Seal the medical bay. Tessa activated. Harlocks moved Carr deeper into an inner chamber and armed the bay defense drones. Carr gripped her wrist, weak but desperate, and whispered something that made her breath stop. Humans are wrong. They bleed metal. They heal too fast. They keep fighting when they should die, but the worst ones are not born. They are made by choice. They decide survival is not enough. They decide to become gods. The ship lights flickered again. Another breach alarm sounded. Closer to medical bay, Rel spoke to every crew member with a voice like steel. Avoid close combat. Seal doors. Use distance. Use fire. Use vacuum. Fight smart, not brave. As the ship shook and the cameras died one by one, Rel stared at the final line on the archive screen. Humanity is dangerous because it adapts. He understood now. The galaxy did not fear humans because humans were evil. The galaxy feared them because humans could become anything, and sometimes they became worse.
Perimeter clear. Moving to objective.
Captain Relvaro could feel the ship dying around him as if the Lumen Gate was a living creature being eaten from the inside. The alarms never stopped and the lights pulsed between emergency red and cold white. The bridge crew spoke only in short updates because fear had become the normal air of the ship. Rel stared at the tactical map and saw the purifiers spreading through the corridors like a sickness. But what terrified him most was the pattern. They were not roaming, they were not looting, they were not lost, they were hunting with purpose, and every route pointed toward the medical bay where Carvadin was sealed behind reinforced doors with Tessa. Vane, standing between him and Deathrel, squeezed his hands until his fingers hurt. If the purifiers reached Car, then the witness was erased, and after the witness, the evidence would be erased, and then the ship would be erased. The truth would vanish, like it never existed. Rel opened the ship-wide command channel and forced his voice to stay hard and clear. Listen to me, all crew. Follow this rule. Do not fight close. Do not chase. Do not be brave. Seal every corridor behind you. Trap them. Use vacuum. Use fire. Use foam. Use distance. If they enter your section, you leave and you lock them in. He could hear shaky breathing and quiet sobs behind the complex, but he also heard people moving and obeying because survival was stronger than panic. Security Chief Merrick appeared on the bridge monitor, bruised and furious. Captain, my squad is down. Our rifles do nothing. Those things walk through shots like rain. Rel answered, keep your people alive. Do not play hero. Mark swallowed his pride and nodded, then disappeared to lead surviving guards into escort work, not combat work. An engineering officer Liza reported something even worse. Captain, the purifiers are planting nodes into the ship's spine. They are linking into our control systems. They are trying to take the ship. Rel felt full move through his bones because that meant they were not just killers, they were cleaners. They would steal the logs, corrupt the records, and then burn the rest. So no one could even prove they existed. The ship shook again, and this time the sound rolled through the hull close to the medical bay. Light metal screaming in pain. Tessa came on. Come breathing hard, Captain. There on the outer medical corridor. I can hear impacts on the door. The defense drones are ready, but if they keep pushing, they will breach. Rel answered. Vent. The outer corridor now. Tessa hesitated for a heartbeat because there were injured crew nearby, but she moved them inside the inner chamber, sealed the bulkhead, and the corridor vents opened. The camera feed frosted as air exploded outward, and the tunnel became a frozen vacuum. Tessa whispered, let this work. Then a white-armored purifier stepped into the corridor and simply anchored to the wall like lungs were optional. And Nava joined it, and Anava, and they began moving in vacuum with slow, patient confidence. They reached the medical bay door and started cutting with a pale tool that screamed against metal like an animal dying. Rel understood. Venting only bought time, not victory. He turned to Juno. Where is the other human? The dark-armored one. Juno answered, weak signal, but he is still close enough to transmit. Rel opened the channel and spoke with anger and desperation. You said you were the friendly option. Prove it. Help us. To calm voice returned immediately. Captain, I dragged most of them away, but a pack stayed behind. They want the witness and they think your ship is easy cleanup. Rel asked, how do we kill them? Elias paused, like he was choosing words carefully, then answered, you cannot kill them quickly. You stop them with environment, trap them, freeze them, crush them, burn them, starve them of movement. Do not duel them. Rel snapped, we are researchers, not soldiers. Elias' voice hardened, then learned fast, because today you are prey. The words made Rel feel small, but they also made him focus. Rel swallowed his pride. Who are you? Elias replied, Elias Rook, former Union auxiliary, now outlaw. In your files I protect people who cannot protect themselves. Carvadin saw their lab chips and their modified humans. They tortured him for information, and now they want him erased. Rel asked, why do you risk yourself for him? Elias answered, because the purifiers are not just hunting humans, they are hunting the idea of mercy. If they win, the galaxy learns the wrong lesson. It learned survival means becoming a monster. That line hit Rel hard because it sounded like a truth older than war. Elias added, Captain, you must move the witness now. They will breach medical bay in minutes. Rel made a hard decision. Prepare relocation, move car to emergency shuttle base 7, escort with every drone, and lock every other route. He ordered the AI to build a sealed corridor path like a maze, and he ordered engineering to overload certain lights for heat bursts. Because fire still forced even fearless bodies to calculate, he ordered foam traps and door crush sequences inside passages, so if purifiers entered, they would be delayed, pinned, and separated. The ship became a weapon built from doors, pressure, and darkness. On camera feeds, the purifiers moved with unnatural patience. When doors locked, they cut through slowly. When flames erupted, they stepped back, not afraid but evaluating like cold machines inside human-shaped armor. Then the medical bay door finally buckled, the cutting tool ate through the last layer, and the bulkhead peeled open like torn skin. The first purifier stepped inside and the defense drones opened fire. Needle rounds, shock pulses, everything hit the white armor and did almost nothing. The purifier tilted its head like it was bored, then lifted its arm and fired a narrow beam, slicing 2 drones in half. Another purifier entered, then another. The medical staff retreated behind the inner chamber door. Tessa stood at the seal panel with her hand ready to slam it shut in the inner chamber. Carr lay strapped to a portable cradle, eyes open, shaking but refusing to beg. Carr whispered, "They are coming to finish me." Tessa answered, "Not today," and injected a stabilizer. She sealed the inner door and the purifiers pressed hands to it, feeling prey. Through steel, the metal bent slightly under their grip like it was soft clay. One purifier spoke through the door with a distorted voice. "Witness, open the door, witness. Surrender and be erased." The word erased sounded like mercy in its mouth, but it was a lie. Then Tessa activated an emergency floor panel, revealing a maintenance tunnel leading toward Bay 7. It was not meant for patients, but it was their only chance. She pushed the cradle into the tunnel with her team and sealed the panel behind them just as heavy impacts began tearing the inner door apart. Rel guided them through tunnels using map updates and remote door locks. He sealed every section behind them and deployed foam traps ahead. Marek and his surviving guards moved to intercept at a junction, and he reported grimly, "Captain, we are not going to die proud today. We are going to live smart." Rel vented one Carter as the purifiers entered it, then flooded another with electrical arcs to disrupt their planted nodes. The ship AI screamed warning after warning but obeyed because survival was now the only law. Bay 7 came into view and the emergency shuttle sat ready. Engines warmed for quick launch. Tessa pushed the cradle up the ramp and strapped it down. Marek arrived, covered in soot, dragging a wounded officer behind him. He sealed the hatch and shouted, "Launch." Now Rel gave the command and the shuttle detached from the ship and accelerated away into the black, carrying Carr and Tessa and 3 medical staff. Rel watched it leave, and for the first time he felt a thin thread of hope. Then Juno cried out, "Captain, new internal signal. The purifiers accessed our coma ray. They are broadcasting." Rel asked, "Broadcasting to who?" Juno replied, wide-eyed, "To Union space. They are framing us, claiming we attacked them, claiming we carry illegal human bioweapons." Rel understood the next horror. Even if they survived, they might be hunted as criminals and the purifiers would become ghosts again. Elias' voice returned low and urgent. "They are turning the Union against you. They want you hunted." Rel whispered. "What do I do?" Elias answered. "You do what humans do when trapped. You endure, you fight unfair, you keep the witness alive. That is how truth survives." Rel stared at the burning corridors, dead cameras and breach lights, and he finally understood what made humans terrifying. It was not only strength or iron, blood or pain tolerance. It was the refusal to stop even when the universe demanded they die. The emergency shuttle carrying Carvaden and Tessa Vane disappeared into the black, and for one short moment Captain Relvaro almost believed they had won something, but victory in deep space was never clean. The lumen gate still screamed under. The tech and the purifiers were still inside, tearing through steel like it was thin cloth. Rel forced his breathing steady and focused on the ship. Map again. The red zones had not stopped spreading, and now new danger blinked on the display system. Contamination nodes, active comm array, compromised core access attempts. Rising. The purifiers were not just killers, they were erasers. They wanted the ship records wiped, and they wanted the Union to see lies instead of truth. Juno reported that the false broadcasts had already been sent toward Union relays and would reach the nearest listening station within hours. That meant even if Rel survived, he might not be rescued, he might be hunted. Rel stared at the report and felt anger ignite in his chest because it was not enough for the purifiers to murder. They also wanted to control the story. Rel opened to Channel 2. Engineering and gave the most painful order of his career: cut the ship from the network, destroy the comm array. If you must, we will go silent. And Iminio hesitated because silence in deep space meant isolation, and isolation meant death, but Rel repeated it like law: burn it before they use it again. Lysa obeyed and redirected power to overload the external comm unit. A deep vibration ran through the hull, then a bright flash appeared on external camera feeds. The comm array burned into fragments and drifted away like blowing snow. The ship went quieter after that, but the quiet felt like blindness. Rel knew they had just cut their last safe call for help, yet it was better than letting purifiers keep poisoning the Union with lies. Then, Security Chief Marek sent a message from a sealed junction. Captain, we have eyes on them. They are not searching randomly. They are heading toward the data core and navigation spine. If they take that, they can steer us anywhere and erase logs before destruction. Rel clenched his jaw and understood what came next. If the purifiers took the core, the ship would become their weapon and Rel crew would become trapped animals. He had no choice but to fight smarter than a researcher ever should. He ordered all remaining crew to fall back toward the bridge and engineering ring and to abandon outer habitat sections. Entire sections were sacrificed, doors sealed behind evacuating crew, then vented to vacuum after the last friendly biosignal passed. The AI begged in warning tones and the ship trembled with pressure changes, but Rel did not stop because every vent was a knife, every lock was a cage, every sacrifice bought time. Then the ship internal cameras caught something worse. The purifiers were adapting. They were working together with cold discipline. One would cut while another gutted, while another planted nodes and sent pulses into walls like insects laying eggs. They were building a path through the ship that did not care about doors. They were creating new access routes inside the hull itself. Rel watched them for several minutes and felt sick because their patience was unnatural. They did not act like raiders, they acted like surgeons, removing disease, and in their minds, the disease was everything alive that still felt fear or mercy. Rel called Elias Rook again, and this time, his voice carried less anger and more urgency. Elias, I cut the gamma ray. They cannot broadcast from us anymore, but they are going for the data core. Elias answered quickly, good, that slows the lie, but it does not stop the purge. Rel asked, what do they really want? Elias replied, they want Card dead, they want the evidence dead. They want you dead because you saw them, and they want the idea of baseline humanity dead because it proves they are wrong. Rel swallowed and asked, what about the other Union ships? Will they come? Elias gave a bitter laugh. Captain V, your gamma ray destroyed. You look like a ship that went dark in a restricted zone. Union will assume you are guilty or dead. The purifiers counted on that. Rel felt a new kind of fear. Not of dying, but of dying without meaning. Then Elias added, but you can still do one thing that hurts them. You can keep your logs alive. Rel asked how. Elias answered, launch the black box, send it toward the nearest relay on Otsopals. It is small, fast, and hard to track. If even one packet reaches the Union, the lie breaks. Rel looked at Juno and Lysa, and they both understood immediately. The Lumen Gate had a hardened black box recorder designed for disaster. It contained everything: scans, audio, feeds, bio readings, and camera footage. It was meant to survive the ship burning. Rel ordered its preparation at once, but even as they moved, the ship shook again, and Marek's voice came through, strained. Captain, they are pushing toward the core. We trapped them twice, but they cut through faster. They do not tire. Rel ordered a new trap. Plan Gamma Lock Corridor D12, flood with fire suppressant, then ignite oxygen pockets behind it. The tactic was brutal and risky, but he had learned the lesson. Fight unfair. The corridor sealed, foam filled the section, and the ignition burst created a rapid heat pressure wave that bent metal. The cameras showed one purifier thrown back hard, smashing into a wall. It stood again within seconds, but one of its armor plates cracked and leaked dark fluid that looked like thick oil. The sight shocked Rel because it meant they could bleed. It meant they could be damaged, but the damage cost so much energy and time and danger that it still felt hopeless. Then another message came from medical bay cameras, still active despite destruction. The inner medical bay was gone, torn open like an animal carcass, and the purifiers were inside it, searching through empty rooms. One of them held a blood-stained medical tool and sniffed it like it could smell history. It then spoke with that distorted voice, the witness has fled, the baseline has fled. The ship must be cleaned. Rel watched the purifier lift its arm and plant a new node into the wall. The node pulsed and the AI screamed, warning, core access attempt, rising warning, navigation override attempt. Rel slammed his hand on the console and shouted at his crew, move faster, prepare the black box now. If they take navigation, we die drifting or worse. They fly us into Union space. As a Elisa reported, black box ready to launch, but the launch tube was in a section now threatened by purifiers. Rel made a decision that felt insane. He would personally lead the escort to the launch tube because if the black box died, the truth died. He grabbed an emergency suit and a shock pistol, not because he believed it could kill a purifier, but because it could buy seconds, and seconds mattered. Marek met him with 3 surviving guards, and their faces were pale but determined. Marek said, Captain, you should not be in front. Rel answered, if I stay on the bridge, the ship dies anyway. If the black box launches, we win. Even if we die. They moved through narrow sealed corridors lit by flickering red panels. The air smelled like burnt wiring and cold metal. Every few meters the hull groaned like a wounded beast. They reached the launch tube chamber and began connecting the recorder to the ejection rail. Just as the final locks engaged, a heavy impact hit the outer door. The metal bent inward slowly as if pushed by a giant hand. Not hammered. The guards raised rifles, but Rel shouted, "No, close fight, back away." He ordered. The chamber vented and the outer door locked again. Then he gave the launch command. The black box shot out of the tube like a bullet into darkness, carrying the truth inside it like a heartbeat. Rel watched it signal for a few seconds, then it faded as it went silent mode to avoid tracking. Elias's voice returned in, "Come like a ghost, good captain, now the truth has a chance," Rel whispered. "Is that enough?" Elias replied. "It is never enough, but it is something that cannot be erased easily." Then a warning flashed on the bridge screen as Juno called out, "The purifiers have reached navigation spine access in 2 minutes." Rel looked at his exhausted crew and understood the last choice. If he stayed, the purifiers would take the ship and use it as a weapon or erase it completely. But if he destroyed his own ship, he could deny them the prize. He opened ship wide, calm, and spoke calmly. "All crew prepare for evacuation pods. Any pod, any suit, any chance. Do it now. This ship will not belong to them." He turned to Lysa and gave the final command arm, the core overload. Sequin Lysa, eyes filled with fear, but she nodded because she understood to better a clean death than a stolen future. As the countdown began, and the hull shook from purifier impacts, Rel felt the question again rising inside him like fire. What the hell is wrong with human biology? And the answer was sharper than ever: nothing was wrong. Humans could survive anything, and that meant even their worst versions could survive morals too. And that was the most frightening thing in the galaxy. The core overload countdown began with a low, repeating tone that vibrated through the lumen gate like a funeral drum. Captain Relvar stood on the bridge watching the timer tick down and felt the weight of every second, because he knew this was not just a ship decision, it was a life decision. He had an ordered evacuation, but evacuation in a ship being hunted from the inside was not a clean process. It was chaos hidden behind sealed doors and emergency lights. Crew members ran through narrow corridors, dragging wounded friends, using wall rails to stay upright as the hull shook. Escape pods launched in uneven bursts, some clean, some delayed, some forced to reroute because purifiers had already cut through nearby sections. Each pod that left was one small win, and each pod that failed to leave was a death. Rel swallowed hard and forced himself to keep directing traffic, because if his voice broke, his crew would break too. Juno reported that several pods had cleared the danger zone and were drifting silent in the shadow of dead rocks, waiting for rescue or for the shuttle-carrying car to find them. Rel nodded, but he did not feel relief yet. The purifiers were still alive, still moving, and they were now close enough that their footsteps could be heard through the bridge bulkheads like slow, heavy taps on a coffin lid. Marek came onto the bridge limping, his armor cracked, soot on his face and blood at his lip. He looked at the countdown and understood immediately. "Captain, you are really going to do it," Rel answered. "Without emotion, we cannot let them take the ship." Marek stared at him, then nodded once like a soldier accepting the last order and said, "My remaining guards will hold the corridor as long as we can." Rel looked at him, and in that moment he felt respect deeper than fear. "Thank you, Marek." Then the ship I screamed a new warning. Navigation spine breach confirmed. Multiple intruders detected the main hallway. Camera feed showed the white armored figures entering the spine corridor like they owned it. They were no longer patient. They were moving faster now because they sensed the ship turning into a bomb. They had no fear of death, but they did have a goal, and the goal was control. One purifier placed a hand on a wall panel, and the panel sparked and died as if its system was being eaten. Another planted a node directly into the corridor floor, and the node pulsed like a heartbeat. Rel watched the feed and felt hate rise, because those things had once been human and now they were a choice made into a weapon. He opened a channel to Elias Rook, who still hovered somewhere beyond the ship, pulling away the main pack of hunters. Elias answered instantly, "Captain, the core overload is active. I can read the radiation surge through my sensors." Rel replied, "They have reached navigation spine and are trying to stop the overload." Elias' voice lowered. "Then they know the value of your sacrifice?" Rel asked. "Can you stop them?" Elias paused, then answered, "Not in time. I am too far and too damaged to board again, but listen to me. You must not let them cancel the overload. You must hold for the countdown." Rel stared at the timer. 3 minutes left, he whispered. My crew is still escaping, Elias replied. Then you buy them 3 minutes like a human would. Rel did not know whether to feel insulted or comforted, but he understood the truth behind the words. The galaxy thought humans were monsters because they survived, but in this moment survival meant something else. It meant standing in front of death and refusing to move until others could live. Rel shut off the channel and looked at his bridge team. They were exhausted, pale, some injured, but still at their stations. Rel spoke softly, all remaining. Pods launch now. Anyone still on the ship has 2 minutes to reach an exit. If you cannot, then find a sealed section and pray the blast throws you clear. No one answered with words, but they moved faster. Then the first purifier reached the outer bridge corridor. Marek and his guards were waiting behind a sealed door with portable barrier plates and foam traps. They did not shoot immediately because bullets were useless. Instead, they triggered the first trap as the purifier cut through. The corridor vented to vacuum and foam jets erupted, covering the floor in slick freezing mass. The purifier stepped forward and slipped for the first time in its unnatural life. It caught itself instantly, but it lost momentum in that 1 second. Marek used that second to trigger the next trap. An overhead panel dropped and slammed down, crushing part of the corridor space. The purifier was pinned for a moment, and its white armor cracked further, leaking that dark, thick fluid again. Another purifier behind it grabbed the panel and lifted it like it was light, and that terrified Marek because it proved strength beyond sanity. The guards fired shock pulses into joints and seems not to kill but to disrupt movement. One purifier twisted and the shock pulse failed to slow it. Then it raised its hand and fired a beam that sliced one guard in half without hesitation. Marek screamed for retreat, and the remaining guards fell back behind the next sealed door, buying meters in seconds but losing lives. Rel watched everything through the feed, unable to help, and felt his chest tighten because he realized the purifiers were not even fighting fully. They were simply removing obstacles like cleaning dirt. Then the bridge shouted overload. Cancellation attempt detected. Rel snapped back to the console. The purifiers were trying to access the core safety lock through implanted nodes. The AI fought them like an animal fighting a parasite, and the ship systems flickered. As control signals clashed, Rel shouted at engineering Lysa, burn the core lock channels. Manually, Lysa replied, if I do that, we cannot stop the overload, even if we wanted to. Rel answered, that is the point. Do it. She executed the command and several safety circuits blew out in a shower of sparks. The countdown tone changed, becoming louder, more final. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Juno looked at Rel with wide, wet eyes. Captain, escape pods are mostly away, but some crew are still trapped near Bay 2. They cannot reach exits. Rel felt pain twist his face, then he forced himself to speak. Send them vent-safe sections to push debris away. Maybe they can ride the blast, throw them into open space. It was cruel logic, but it was the only kind left. Then the outer bridge door began to bend inward. The purifiers were here now, their hands pressing into metal like it was soft clay. The door groaned and dented deeper and deeper until the locking bolts screamed. Juno whispered, they are coming. Rel stared at the door and felt the moment stretched like time slowing. 30 seconds left. Marek appeared at the end of the bridge corridor, dragging himself through smoke, his left arm hanging useless. He shouted, Captain, go now. Rel answered, there is no now. Marek saw the timer and finally understood. He stopped, and for one rare moment his fear faded into respect. He whispered, you will be remembered. Rel wanted to believe that, but he knew memory could be erased, just like evidence, unless the black box survived. The bridge lights flickered and the door finally ripped open. The first purifier stepped inside the bridge and looked around at the crew with a slow head tilt like a predator. Seeing prey, one of the bridge officers raised a pistol. With shaking hands, the purifier did not even flinch. It advanced and raised a hand. Then suddenly the ship shook with a powerful external impact, not from a purifier but from outside. A flash lit the bridge windows, and the purifier paused. Elias' voice burst into, come fast and urgent, Captain. I am back. I rammed their attached breach pods with my ship. I forced a detonation chain. Some of them are gone. Rel could not believe it. Elias had returned to hit the parasite pods stuck to the hull, creating shockwaves and secondary explosions outside, which rocked the ship and disrupted the purifier network inside. For the first time, the purifier on the bridge hesitated as if its systems lost connection. Rel seized the moment and triggered the final bridge vent protocol. The bridge emerges, shutters sealed, and the floor vents opened for a partial vacuum burst. The sudden pressure shift shoved a purifier back just enough to break its stance. The crew used that moment to dive behind consoles, in barriers, not to fight but to survive the last 10 seconds. Ral looked at the countdown and whispered into the ship like it was a living thing. Thank you for carrying us. The timer reached 0 and the core overload ignited deep inside the ship. A white light swallowed the screens, and a roaring wave of energy tore through metal and air and silence. The lumen gate became a sun for a heartbeat, and then it became fragments scattering across the void. In the distance, the escape pods drifted and shook as the blast wave passed around them like the breath of a god. Elias' ship spun away, damaged but alive. He watched the explosion from far enough distance and whispered a quiet, "Human promise. They tried to erase you, but you fought back." And somewhere in the dark, the black box recorder flew unseen, carrying proof of monsters wearing human skin and proof that a non-human captain chose sacrifice over surrender because the galaxy needed truth more than comfort. The explosion of the lumen gate lit deep space like a sudden artificial sunrise, and then it was gone, leaving only drifting fire fragments frozen into silent glowing dust. For the escape pods, it felt like the universe itself had punched them. Some pods spun wildly, others stabilized and went dark immediately following emergency stealth protocol. Captain Relvaro was gone, but his last orders were still alive inside the machines. Do not transmit, do not shine, do not be found. The survivors did not cry yet, because in space crying wastes air and hope, and both were limited. Marek lay strapped in a pod seat, half conscious, his body broken but his mind refusing to release the last duty. He listened to the pod systems and forced his breathing. Slow, each ping could be death, each vibration could be another hunter. Then the pod external sensor marked movement. A ship approached, fast but careful, not broadcasting Union codes, not broadcasting pirate codes, just a silent shape sliding through debris like a shadow. Hunt in shadows. The pods, prepared for the worst targeting systems, woke up weakly, and a few survivors raised small sidearms, even though everyone knew that a pistol in space was a prayer, not a weapon. Then the ship revealed itself with a small, light pulse, not a full signal, only a short, safe pattern, as if someone was knocking softly on a locked door. But it was Elias Roque. He had survived the blast, but his ship looked wounded. Armor panels were torn, thrusters flickered, and one side burned faintly from impact damage. He moved slowly among the pods, using short thruster bursts to avoid lighting up the area too much. One by one, he latched onto escape pods and pulled them behind a drifting rock field, using debris as cover. He was not rescuing for reward, he was collecting lives like they mattered, because to him they did. Marek finally opened a cum line on minimal power, and his voice came out like gravel. "Human, why are you here?" Elias answered immediately. "Calm and tired, because your captain bought you time and I refused to waste it." Marek swallowed hard, because he never expected to respect a human, and yet respect arrived. Anyway, because actions do not lie, Elias guided the last pod into cover, and then shut down all major systems. They floated in silence for long minutes, watching distant sensor ghosts and waiting for Purifier pursuit. But the Purifiers did not come in ships like normal predators. They came like a disease, and now their disease cloud had been burned apart with the lumen gate. The hunt had not ended, though, because lies were still moving faster than ships. The Purifier BROADCAST had already gone out before the cum array was destroyed, and Union stations would soon receive a clean false report claiming the lumen gate attacked legal enforcement units and carried illegal human bioweapons. That meant any Union patrol arriving here would arrive with weapons ready to kill, not to rescue. Elias knew this, and his face stayed hard behind his mask. He opened a private channel to his remaining contacts and fed them a coded warning. The Purifiers are active. The Union is compromised by false data. Watch every order, verify everything, trust only proof. Then he checked the last thing that mattered, the black box signal. It was silent mode, but it still existed as a faint heartbeat in the direction of the nearest relay. Elias whispered to himself, "Fly, little truth, fly before Union politics can bury you, before Purifier claws can find you." Meanwhile, far away, the emergency shuttle carrying Carvaden and Tessavain raced through deep space on minimal thrusts. It avoided busy routes and stayed close to asteroid shadows, because Elias had warned them that Purifiers sometimes tracked heat signatures like predators tracking blood. The shuttle had limited fuel and limited oxygen, but it carried something more valuable than supplies. It carried a witness. Car lay on the medical cradle, pale and shaking but alive. Tessa kept him stable with controlled fluids and pain blocks while watching the sensor mapped like a hawk. Every few hours she checked the cum band for Union signals, and every time she saw one her stomach tightened because she did not know if Union would be a friend or enemy. Now Ka finally spoke in a weak voice. "Doctor, where's your captain?" Tessa paused, then answered quietly, "He is gone. He destroyed the ship to stop them." Ka closed his eyes and his breathing shook. He whispered, "In my culture that is the highest honor." Tessa swallowed hard and forced herself not to break because she had to stay functional. She said, "He saved you." Ka replied, "No, he saved the truth." Hours later, a Union patrol signal appeared ahead, a medium cruiser with official codes and escort drones. It hailed them immediately, ordering them to stop and prepare for inspection. The voice on com was cold and suspicious. "Unknown shuttle, identify and surrender. You are suspected of connection to the Lumengate incident." Tessa felt the trap close. She tried to explain medical emergency, rescued witness, hostile borders, but the Union officer interrupted with rehearsed authority. "You will power down now." The shuttle crew panicked, but Tessa raised her hand and forced them silent. She knew fear would make them say the wrong thing. Then Carr did something unexpected. He told Tessa to open the channel fully and let him speak. Tessa hesitated because exposing him could make him a target, but Carr's eyes held steady resolve. Not fear. The channel opened and Carr spoke with a voice that carried weight, even while weak. "This is Carr Vaden of the Vaden Accord. I am a prisoner escapee and a witness. I accuse the Puravaya faction of illegal bioweapon creation in Union border violations." The Union officer laughed. "That is not a recognized claim." Carr continued, ignoring the insult. "I request immediate tribunal protection under Accord law. I carry evidence and I am under threat from modified human extremists." The Union voice turned harsher. "There is no proof. There is only your word." Carr looked at Tessa and nodded. She understood immediately and pulled up the one thing they had. The escape shuttle had a partial copy of the internal feeds from medical bay. Tessa had streamed them through the ship network during the attack. Those feeds included pure fire, armor footage, voice captures, and scans showing illegal modifications. She transmitted the package as a data burst before the Union cruiser could block it. The cruiser paused for a fraction of time as its systems processed the file. The Union officer voice shifted slightly, not softer but less confident. "Stand by for verification." Then another voice entered the channel. "All the higher rank, this is Commander Selm of the Union cruiser Halcyon Hold. We are receiving your evidence now. Maintain course and do not power down. We will escort you to neutral tribunal space." Tessa finally exhaled, but Carr was still tense because he understood power systems and politics. Evidence did not always win quickly. Sometimes it simply gave enemies a reason to kill you faster. The escort began, and the shuttle moved beside the Union cruiser as drones formed a protective ring. Yet even inside that protection, Elias' warning echoed in Tessa's mind. "Trust only proof." Then, as if the universe wanted to prove him right, a new signal flashed on sensors. A fast approaching object, no transponder, no identity, running dark. The Union cruiser began powering weapons and demanded identification. No reply. The object accelerated toward them like a thrown knife, and Tessa's heart dropped because she knew that pattern. That was Purifier style, silent, fast, merciless. The Union commander barked defense formation. Now the unknown object split into smaller pods mid-flight, and each pod released a burst of coal gas to hide its heat signature. Purifier pods. The Union cruiser fired and destroyed some, but others slipped through like insects through cracks. The shuttle shook as a blast wave hit nearby space. One pod slammed into the Union cruiser hull and began cutting immediately. Another raced toward the shuttle. Tessa screamed, "Brace!" but there was no time then. A new ship appeared from the darkness like a demon made of scrap and fury. Elias Roke. He had followed at distance like a guardian shadow. He fired without warning, not at the Union cruiser but at the incoming pod. The pod exploded into fragments. Elias' voice had come fast. "Tessa, go now. Burn fuel. Jump to the coordinates. I sent you. Do not look back." The Union commander shouted. "Who the hell are you, Elias?" replied the one keeping you alive, and then he cut the channel. He slammed his ship between the shuttle and the Purifier pod swarm, taking fire meant for them like a shield made of metal and stubbornness. Tessa did not hesitate. She pushed the engines into emergency burn, and the shuttle surged away, leaving Elias behind, fighting in silence against a nightmare he knew too well. Carr watched through the rear cam feed and whispered, "Humans survive because they refused to stop." Tessa eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed firm. "Captain Relvaro gave us the truth. Elias is giving us time again. We will not waste it." The shuttle vanished into dark toward tribunal space, carrying the witness and the evidence, while behind them Union weapons lit the void and Purifier Shadows moved between explosions, trying to erase the last living proof that mercy still mattered. The shuttle pushed through darkness, an emergency burn, and then cut engines to silence, letting cold space swallow the sound of fear. Behind them, explosions bloomed like distant flowers and then vanished, leaving only scattered light and drifting debris. Tessa Vane kept her hands steady on the controls, even though her entire body wanted to shake because she knew one mistake would make them an easy target. The coordinates Elias had sent were not a normal station route. They were a quiet corridor, near neutral tribunal space, a region where Union laws and outer accords overlapped just enough to force rules on predators. Carvaden lay strapped to the cradle, breathing through pain and exhaustion, but his eyes stayed open, watching the rear. "Feed until the last spark of battle faded," he whispered. "They will not stop," Tessa answered. "I know, but we only need one door to open. Once the tribunal hears you, they cannot pretend you do not exist." Tar gave a bitter smile. "The galaxy pretends many things. When fear is high, truth becomes expansive." Hours later, the shuttle reached the edge of the tribunal sector, and the first neutral beacon appeared, a calm blue pulse. The shuttle sent a coded distress signal: "Not Union, not pirate, a neutral medical call." Within minutes, a tribunal escort ship arrived, smaller than a cruiser, but armed enough to enforce rules. Its commander spoke with formal, careful voice. "Unknown shuttle, you are entering protected tribunal space. Identify and state threat category." Tessa answered quickly. "Medical rescue, witness protected, hostile modified humans active. Evidence available," the commander responded. "You will be escorted to tribunal station." Aurelia, keep come open, do not deviate. A protective ring of drones formed around them, and for the first time since the Lumen Gate died, Tessa felt air return to her chest like she had been drowning. Meanwhile, far behind them, Elias Rook fought like a man who had run out of places to retreat. His ship was damaged, his fuel low, and his hull scarred from ramming the purifier pods. But he stayed between the hunters and the fleeing truth, because that was his role. Not hero, not soldier, but barrier. The Union cruiser, Halcyon Hold, had begun to understand what it was facing, and its commander had deployed full defense screens. However, the purifiers did not attack like normal enemies. They sacrificed pods to distract, then cut into weak zones with living acid tools and planted nodes that tried to hijack control systems. The Union crew panicked because they were trained for pirates and rebels, not for modified humans, who treated vacuum like nothing and pain like entertainment. Elias watched the chaos from a flank position and sent short bursts of data to the cruiser commander, showing purifier patterns and advising hard countermeasures. Vent corridors, crush sections, burn oxygen pockets, and most importantly, never let purifiers reach system cores. The commander did not like taking orders from an outlaw, but the evidence was screaming in front of him, so he obeyed. As the battle continued, a pure VR boarding group finally penetrated into the cruiser inner ring. The camera feeds showed white armor shapes moving through corridors with slow, calm purpose. They killed anyone who tried to block them, not with rage but with casual efficiency, like cleaning dirt. Then one purifier spoke into the cruiser line with a distorted voice. Everyone heard, "We are the future. Surrender your weakness and be erased." Commander Selm replied with shaking anger, "This is Union space. You will stand down." There was a pause, then the purifier answered, "There is no Union, there is only survival." Then the cruiser shook as more breaches opened. Elias grit his teeth and realized this would end in destruction unless someone broke the purifier network from the outside. He made the decision he had been avoiding because it meant risking everything left. He rerouted all remaining power to his ship core and aimed at the purifier command pod attached to the cruiser hull. It was the largest node, the anchor, the brain behind the swarm. Elias whispered a simple human prayer, not for himself but for others. "Let the truth live," then. He accelerated his ship, slammed into the command pod at full thrust. The impact detonated both structures, and the explosion ripped through the purifier network like a snapped spine. Several smaller pods lost coordination, instantly drifting like dead insects. The Union cruiser used the opening to blast remaining pods and seal breaches, but the cost was heavy. Smoke-filled corridors, corpses floated in emergency zero-gravity zones, and the cruiser hull bled atmosphere into space. Commander Seln stared at the damage reports and then at the last transmitted file from Tessa. Evidence scans, purifier voice captures, human modification signatures. Then he finally understood that the earlier broadcast framing the Lumen Gate was a lie. He spoke to his bridge crew with cold clarity. "Mark this. Moan, the purifiers exist. The Union has been targeted by deception. prepare full alert, and request tribunal intervention to override political filters. In other words, he chose truth over comfort. Elias's ship was gone now, only fragments spinning away, but his impact had changed the angle of history because it forced the Union to see the enemy as real, not myth, and that meant the purifiers could no longer hide behind doubted tribunal station. Aurelia, Tessa, and Carr were moved into protected chambers guarded by neutral security, not Union, not pirate, bound by tribunal. Both Carr was given medical care and kept alive long enough to testify. A tribunal panel assembled within hours because the evidence carried emergency classification bio. Weapon creation, species level threat. The chamber was cold, bright, and formal. 3 judges sat behind transparent screens, and their voices carried authority that did not belong to any single faction. Judge Varen spoke first. Carvaden, you claim existence of modified human extremists and illegal biological weapon programs provide proof. Carr lifted his head and spoke with steady, pain-filled strength. I provide my body as proof. I provide scars as proof. I provide recordings as proof. The Lumengate captain died to save this evidence, and a human outlaw died to stop the hunters from erasing it. If you ignore this, you become their ally through weakness. Tessa then played the footage. Purifier armor walking through vacuum, purifier voices calling mercy, weakness, purifier scans showing modified tissue, pain suppression, artificial plates. The judges watched in silence, and the room felt colder as truth filled it. Judge Sato spoke quietly. This is not simple piracy, this is an extinction ideology. Judge Verone nodded. It is an internal human civil war weaponized against the galaxy. Carr replied, yes, and we are collateral unless you act. The tribunal issued immediate rulings. Human-modified extremist groups classified as rogue biothreat. All member states required to cooperate on containment, inquiry, and protection protocols. Baseline human communities granted emergency protection status. Witness Carvaden placed under tribunal shield. And most importantly, the tribunal ordered Union leadership to release all hidden human archives to stop ignorance from feeding panic. That single order shattered decades of quiet denial. Across the galaxy, the word human returned to public channels, not as myth but as reality. People reacted with fear, anger, curiosity, and some with hope, because the tribunal confirmed something else. 2 humans were not only monsters. Humans also contained those who fought the monsters, even when hated, even when hunted. In the final hearing, Judge Ver asked Carl one question. Why did the human Elias Rook risk himself for you? Carl answered, because he still believes mercy is strength. Judge Verone then turned to Tessa and asked, why did Captain Relvaro destroy his own ship? Tessa swallowed hard and replied, because he chose truth over survival for himself. He chose others over fear. He acted human without being human. The judges remained silent for a moment, and then Judge Sato spoke, a line that later spread through 1,000 channels. Humanity is not defined by biology, it is defined by choice. Weeks later, tribunal fleets began searching purifier routes and hidden lab ships. The war was not over, but it had a name now, and names can be hunted. Karuk slowly and became the living witness that forced alliances between species who once distrusted each other. Tessa became a tribunal medical advisor, specializing in human biology and modification science, and she carried the memory of a captain who never met a human until the day humans entered his ship and changed his fate. In a quiet memorial chamber at Aurelia Station, a small plaque was placed, without politics, without flags, only truth. It read, Captain Relvaro sacrificed his ship to save evidence in lives. Elias Rook, outlaw who chose mercy, both proved one thing to the galaxy. The most terrifying thing about humans is not their strength, not their iron blood, not their ability to survive. It is that, even in the darkest vacuum, they can still choose to protect what is weak, and that choice makes them unstoppable.